Hi there, I'm Vicky Parfano from Aussie Stampers. Welcome back to my channel. Today I have a really pretty card for you using the Healing Hugs stamp set. This is a distinctive rubber stamp, so it has different colours within the one coloured ink, so you get variations and it's really pretty. I'll show you what I mean. Now I'm going to use some Berry Burst ink, some Flirty Flamingo ink and Lemon Lime Twist. I have Berry Burst cardstock, Versamark, my snips. I have silver embossing powder. I have a couple of sponge daubers. I'm only going to use one of those. Embossing tools, so my heat gun and my powder tool. And I have these Nuvo drops. Now, I'm a great fan of Nuvo drops. I have a whole selection of them. If you buy these, you're trying to find the colour. It's just there. This one is rose water. And I'm going to use that right at the end as an embellishment. So I have my Berry Burst cardstock, and I've cut this as a top fold card, and then I have various layering pieces in Whisper White. Now the dimensions for these will be on my blog. I also have some brushed silver cardstock. Now this is a retired cardstock, but I just had a tiny bit left. I had to use it up. I thought, oh, it's so pretty, it's going to work so well with the silver embossing powder. But I have a layering piece for the inside, a layering piece for the top. And then I have a scrap piece here that I'm going to do my stamping on, and I'm going to cut out the images, fussy cut them and pop them up on the front of the card. So I'm going to start with opening up the ink pads. So Berry Burst, Flirty Flamingo and Lemon Lime Twist. Starting with the lighter ink, which is Flirty Flamingo, I'm just going to stamp, and you can see how you get a gradation of colour. Isn't that clever? So there's a darker and a lighter colour just with one pass of the ink pad. Now I'm going to do that again, but this time I'm going to grab my sponge dauber and add some of the Berry Burst around the outside and just to the centre. Nothing too scientific, but you'll see what happens. You get this beautiful two-coloured rose. Isn't that pretty? It's so easy. It looks really much more difficult than it is. And now, without even cleaning off the stamp pad, because this is a much darker colour ink, I'm just going to go straight in and ink it up with Berry Burst. So I'm going to end up with 3 different coloured roses, and they all coordinate. Isn't that gorgeous? I just love this stamp set. I love these distinctive stamps. You can see how nicely that's going to match the Berry Burst cardstock as the base. Now I'm bringing in the leaf image with the Lemon Lime Twist, and again you have a dark leaf and a light leaf and a lot of gradations in the colour. Very, very clever. So I think I only need 2 of these, but that second one didn't stamp so well, so I'm going to try again. Yes, that's better. And I'm just going to fussy cut these with my paper snips. Now the best tip I can give you for fussy cutting is hold the scissors still and move the paper. You'll find this is much easier, it's much less tiring on your hands. And I'm going to speed it up a little bit because you don't really want to watch me fussy cut all these pieces. It didn't take me very long though, because it's a fairly simple outline and you can just go back and make any adjustments that you need after you've finished the whole piece. So now I'm going to fussy cut that darker rose and just go back and adjust. And the rose that I used this sponge dauber on and created those 2 colours where it combines the 2 colours together, and it just gives you this perfectly coordinated bouquet. Now with the leaves, again I'm fussy cutting and I'm keeping them in 2 pieces, or a single piece. I'm keeping both leaves together, but I only need 2 of them. So I'm just going to cut around and clean that up. So that's all your fussy cutting done. Now I'm going to start putting the layers on. I love this brushed silver. I only had 1 small piece of this left. This is a retired cardstock. If you don't have brushed silver, you could use a grey colour. You could use any of the greys that Stampin' Up! Have, or if you want to use something else, you can as well. But it just worked so well with the silver embossing powder, I had to use it. Now I'm going to bring in this little image, which is kind of like little crosses. And I'm going to start off in the Lemon Lime Twist, which is the lightest colour, and just randomly stamp some of those in the bottom right hand corner. And I've placed my roses roughly where I want them to go. I haven't adhered them yet. I've just positioned them so that I can get my stamping and my sentiment in the right place. So now coming in with the berry burst, and you can see I'm cleaning off my block with a baby wipe in between colours so I don't contaminate my ink pads. And that's probably enough. It just gives a lovely little design which brings in all of the colours that I'm using. Now I'm going to adhere that with some Tombow multi-adhesive. And oh no, I've actually got some of the ink from my hands on the top, but I'm not too concerned about that because I'm actually going to, you can see the ink there, I'm going to place the flowers outside of that white piece. This is one of the things that I think works really well with this card too, is the way I position everything. Now you'll see here that I have forgotten to use my powder tool or my embossing buddy. I hope I'm going to get away with this. Does this happen to you? I find that this happens more than I like to admit, that I forget to use my embossing tool. Anyway, let's see how it goes. Here's my silver embossing powder. Yeah, there's the tool sitting up there and I haven't used it. I'm just going to put that on some folded scrap paper. It came out all right, so I think it's going to be okay once I put the heat tool on it. I'm also going to do the inside layer while I have the embossing powder out. Now this time I am going to use the embossing buddy, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says, "Sending you healing vibes." Now I'm using Versamark ink, stamping that down in the center of the layering piece on the inside, and that came out beautifully. Yes, because I remembered to use the embossing tool. Great, okay. Now I'm going to just pack that away and bring in my heat gun, which I have warming up. And I'm going to bring that in now and start heating or heat setting the embossing with my heat tool. I love the way this just starts to go glossy and gorgeous. It's like magic. Isn't that beautiful? Sending you healing vibes. So there's the inside sentiment. And then on the front, I'm going to emboss Get Well Soon. And this is a lovely big script. And I've stamped it right over the top of those background pieces that I made using those little cross images. And it shows up really well. You can see it there shining, and oh, it's all doing wonderful things to make this card look really special. Now I'm going to bring the stamped images in again for that inside layering piece, and I'm using the same colours, and I'm just going to clean it up with a baby wipe between each pass of the stamp set, and I might bring some of that design up into the top left hand side as well, just so that it's balanced. So a little bit of each, and it just ties it into the front of the card. I love decorating the inside of the card. I think it's just as important as the outside. Now I'm going to adhere this because I don't want to have to move the card once I put the Nuvo drops on it. I want to actually let it sit for a few hours once I've put that final touch on it. So I'm going to leave them till the very last. Now it's time to put the roses in place, and you can see how I'm going to spread them out so that they actually peek outside that white layer. Well, I think that makes it really interesting. And just get an arrangement that feels right for you. I think this looks really balanced. And so I want some dimension to this, so I don't want to adhere everything flat. Having gone to all the trouble of fussy cutting, I don't want to now just stick it down flat. So I'm just putting a tiny dob of adhesive in the center of each of these two flowers on the left. And I might actually adhere the leaf there while I can. I'm just putting it on the stem of the leaf, not adhering the whole thing, because what I want to do is actually bend a lot of these upwards so it gives it a real dimensional feel. So the adhesive is just one small dot of adhesive, just enough to hold it to the page. And then on this final piece, I'm going to use a dimensional in the center and really pop that third one up. So you have the look of an actual bouquet. And now I'm going to just move that out a little bit more so that it's, see how it's beyond the white layered piece, and I think that's really what gives this card its charm. So now I'm going to just hold it where it's glued and then just bend up the edges You can see I'm bending up the edges of the leaf and bending up the edges of all the flowers. And that's what it looks like. It's very dimensional. And with the embossing creates another dimension as well on the card. It's really pretty. I'm really thrilled with how this is looking. So you can see that lovely shine, and you can see how the flowers have dimension and how the inside matches the outside, but there's still plenty of room to write your message. Now the final thing is the Nuvo drops. Now if you've purchased Nuvo drops, it can be really hard to find the name on them. So it's on the side. These are rose water, and they're a perfect match to the Flirty Flamingo pink colour. Now I'm going to start them off on some scratch paper because often they might have an air bubble in the top, and you don't want to pop that air bubble onto your piece. You want to make sure it's running smoothly before you start. And I'm just putting small dots to look like dewdrops on the petals of the flowers. And this looks really, really pretty and adds again to that dimension and just gives it something of interest to add. I've even popped a couple of little drops down onto those bottom leaves. And a few more in the center there. And it looks really, really pretty. I have a whole collection of Nuvo drops. I'm a real fan. All right, now just taking that away, but before I move it, I'll show you. They're a very translucent soft pink, so they work beautifully with this project. And if I bring it up, you can see how they're glistening. Now they will take a few hours to dry, so you don't want to touch them. They'll flatten out slightly, but they do tend to hold their shape quite well. And you might find they crack underneath, but that's okay too. It still adds to the glamour of this card. It is a very glamorous card with all the detail, with the silver embossing, with the brushed silver layer underneath, and with the Nuvo drops. So there it is. There's our project for today. I hope you enjoyed this project using the Healing Hugs stamp set. Bye for now.